So a slightly different episode of Succession this week, but one that was still oh so brilliant. Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel Lifestyle Critic. I hope you're having a brilliant day. So in this video we are going to be reviewing the second episode of the third season of Succession, and this time it was a little bit different and was another really great episode that this time really focused on the sibling dynamic of the Roy family and continued to set up what you know is just going to be an absolutely brilliant season. Like I said, it was a little bit different in terms of it was really intimate and really focused on the rich character narratives between all of the four siblings. And I actually thought it was really great for this reason. I mean, it didn't have all of the typical extravagance that you've come to know and love with this TV series. But that being said, because you're so intimately close with all of these different characters across all of the seasons, and in this episode in particular, you really get to see all of that being explored with all of the formidable actors. Just seeing all of that was really great, and for all of those reasons that was really awesome. And I'm going to be breaking it all down for you in this episode review. So the storyline in this episode mainly revolved around the Kendall Roy character, calling round Shiv, Roman and Connor round to try and convince them to join his bid in his plan to take over the company from Logan Roy. The episode then explored whether or not these three siblings are going to join their brother in this bid to really stab their father in the back, or if they're actually going to side with the Logan Roy character. I think it's really interesting, as these characters are so calculated and so self-interested in wanting to try and get to the top themselves and try and gain ultimate power, which I think is really brilliant. We also had a little bit of a side storyline happening with the Greg character, who's really panicking about everything that he's done in the season 2 finale and is now really confused, which I thought was absolutely brilliant. And of course the Greg character just is so awesome in this series, really different to all of the other characters. I guess a little bit similar to the Connor character, but just so brilliant in his own right as well. And the ending, I had to watch this a couple of times, but what I've realised is that actually the Logan Roy character is now trying to frame the Jerry character, and she's going to be the new blood sacrifice, and he is really setting her up to take the fall in this crazy media storm. So one of the best things about Succession is its formidable cast and characters, and in this episode you really get to see them explored in a lot of detail, which is really great. So let's go through them one by one. So first up, of course, we have Jeremy Strong, who's I guess is the main character in this episode as Kendall Roy, and he is trying really hard to convince his siblings to join him on his side as he tries to take over Waystar Royco. But like I said, because they're all so self-interested and want to be at the top themselves, they ultimately don't decide to go in with this, which I thought was really true to all of the characters. Next up, we have Kieran Culkin back as the Roman Roy character, and he was so brilliant in this episode in particular. I mean, all of his one-liners are really hilarious, but in this episode in particular, they were absolutely awesome. And I liked how he was somewhat questioning whether or not he actually wants to join Kendall, as in the previous 2 seasons, they have had a bit of a double act, whereas this time he ultimately decided to go back to his father and try and win over his approval, which is actually something that this character has been longing for quite a long time now, and is now finally having that. So it's something that is bringing this character a lot of satisfaction, which I think is really interesting when you look at where this character was at the start of this series to where he is now in season 3. Next up we have Sarah Snook, who's obviously back as Shiv Roy. Like I said in my previous episode review, you never really can know what this character is thinking and whose side she is going to be joining. But I did think it was really interesting social commentary, how Kendall Roy was saying, you know, everybody just wants you because you're a female. And I feel like Shiv really responded to this really well, as she just knows she's so much more than this and actually has so much more to give and is so brilliant in her own right, which I thought was really great. Next up, of course, we have Brian Cox, who is back as the Logan Roy character. Like I said, you don't see him that much in this episode, but what you do see is that he's trying so hard to hold it all together. And the tease that we have at the end of this episode is that he is now teeing up the Jerry character to take the fall for everything. I thought it was really great how they also explored the Connor character, and it was really just upsetting that we see that the Logan Roy character and the Kendall character don't really think that much of this character, and always he just gets walked all over because he's such a nice guy. We also saw that the Rasche character is such a powerhouse and is just really not one to be messed with, and is really trying to secure her future and her kid's future. We also didn't see that much of the Tom character in this episode. He's really holding his cards close to his chest, and I'm sure that this character will be a much more prominent figure as the season progresses. And I loved his sequence with the Greg character, as those two have such a good double act whenever they're on the screen together. Speaking of which, I thought Nicholas Braun was so brilliant as always as the Greg character. Clearly out of his depth. He was obviously running from excitement and adrenaline at the end of the second season and in the beginning of this season, but is now trying to put his head together and is trying to work out who to side with, which lawyer to go with. And I thought it was so interesting how this character is always a bit of light comedy relief, whereas this time you get to see him really panicking and trying to work out what to do, which I thought was really, really great. And so from a casting character's point of view, as always, the second episode of Succession was really, really great. So overall, I thought that this was a really great episode. The second episode of the third season of Succession was really, really great. I'm really looking forward to seeing the next episode where they return to the city and return to the company as well. But as far as this episode was concerned, like I said, I absolutely loved how character-centric it was. You really got to see the relationships between all of the siblings and the Roy family, which was really, really great. I love the sequences where all of the brothers and the sisters are together, as there's just such rich character history between all of these different characters, and the way that they feel so comfortable to insult each other, I just think was absolutely iconic. So those are all of my thoughts for the second episode of the third season of Succession. Now I'd love to hear from you, so please let me know what you thought in the comment section below. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing you in my next video.